Welcome aboard, Christie. How are you doing today?
I'm awesome. How are you tonight?
Oh, doing very well, doing very well. Thanks for coming aboard for the interview.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Now, could you tell me a little bit about what you're doing?
Well, I guess most current project is working on homelessradiomagic.com, which kind of came about as I found myself on the streets here living in Washington, and I just thought that I could hopefully create awareness and bridge the gap and hopefully let people know we're human too. And we need just as much love, food, friendship, nurturing, water, sunshine, air as you do as well. And, you know, spitting at us on the streets when we already even have a place to use the restroom with grace as you're, you know, kicking your neighbor on your way to get the latest iPad. Just there's really some kind of disconnect going on here. So anyways, I just want to be able to bring awareness to that situation and hopefully bring people together and, you know, bridge the fear gap.
Yes, that's a big issue for us here at Pirate Radio. You know, with our charitable fundraising, you know, we know that a lot of people that are homeless are have a lot of other things going on in life that created their situation. You know, a lot of veterans are homeless and they fought for our freedom here in America, yet people just, like you're saying, they walk by on the way to get their iPhone and just spit on them.
That's kind of actually where I'd like to go with this right now, Aaron. We'll try to back things up a little bit now. I mean, Christie's obviously, she's come a long way from over the last few years to the point where she now finds herself, and she's doing some amazing work. I really must applaud what she's undertaking here. It's really quite impressive and amazing, and I find it quite inspiring myself, actually. So, I mean, kudos to you, Christie. But let's like I said, back it up a little bit here, because you've come on an amazing journey. If we could take it back to the point where just I guess a few years you found yourself with Soul Journeys Radio, and you had your own show, you had your own audience, you had built up fan base, it seems, and were a very well-known personality, and then everything seemed to kind of go all kind of askew and asunder. How did that all come about? What happened?
Something like that. All right. Well, when I first got in radio, it was actually, I thought, a life preservation mechanism. And that came about after I exposed the sex trafficking ring and I became guests on other people's. And I just thought the more that I thought about it, the safer I would be. Well, that birthed into Truth Brigade Radio, which was more politically based, and then a couple years of that, I'm like, this is ridiculous. We already know this stuff. I don't want to do or listen to the same show every day. So Soul Journeys was born, and that was solution based. And you know, now that we know, what do we do about it? Well, during Soul Journeys Radio, I had started a bunch of other projects, and honestly, really spread myself too thin. I guess I kind of always looked at myself as the caretaker of everybody else, and I forgot about myself. And then I found myself, I went on a 30-day, what I called a soul journey, to kind of figure out what my next step was, and I never returned from that journey. 4 months later, I ended up living and working in a state park in Florida, went back home, got rid of everything, got a travel trailer, and then I found myself very sick in a small town, middle of central Gulf Coast, Florida, and ended up with a brain infection and a bunch of strokes, and I became even more destitute and such. So that's kind of what happened there. So I've actually not even really been online in the last 2 years. And anyways, I just decided, instead of being on the streets and hiding in shame, I wanted to do what I can to bring awareness to the situation. The homeless situation is not new to me. In fact, I did a documentary 9 years ago which of course was deleted offline. But that was like in an area called the Nickel in Skid Row, LA, and it was mostly, probably 100% based on vets and the situation going on out there. And as they're building condos, they go in and throw everybody's belongings if they're on the street at 6 p.m. and then they arrest them and take them to court and then drop them off back in the same place they're not supposed to be. And, you know, it was just kind of a travesty. But at the time, you know, I never thought I would be homeless either. So I just figured, well, here I am. You know, at least I have my voice. I may be broken, I may be beat up, I may be destitute, but I do have a voice, and I would like to help be a voice for those of us that don't have a voice. I mean, yeah, I'm homeless, but I have a car, I have a computer, I have a cell phone and internet, and I have a lot of things that the other people don't. And you know, it breaks my heart when I see the situations that they're in. And I just feel really motivated. You know, now that I'm here, I have to find a way to help. So I hope Homeless Radio can do that.
All right, I think it's a wonderful journey. You know, coming through a soul journey sounds so much like a pirate adventure, where you can start from not knowing where you're at and figure out where you're going and just make that passage across the digital sea, as we like to say in the pirate ship.
Thank you. I love having the support of my fellow pirate friends.
Well, you know, and it's like what they say too. It's like if it doesn't kill you, it tends to make you stronger. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Hey,
so
you know, I've recovered from I was paralyzed from the waist down, told I'd never walk again. I recovered from that. I recovered from the damage of the sex trafficking ring and other things. So I just figure. And, you know, my daughter offered me an inspiration of hope when I was feeling really down and depressed and hopeless. And she's like, Mom, you've recovered from all this other stuff. If anyone can do it, you can. So it just, you know, I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not ashamed. I'm not going to let the stalkers or any of that get to me. I just have to follow my heart and do what I know is right. And Homeless Radio Magic is it. This has been a magical journey, you know. Right. Despite the downs that some people may think they know about, which are really about 1,000 times worse, the ups, the highs, I mean, you have to sometimes swim those depths, maybe even drown, to experience, you know, soar to the greatest heights. And I'm really starting to see that in my value and my place. And, you know, being homeless, it's weird how we have to refer to everybody with a label, and really I have lots of homes. I have infinite homes, and you know, so there's a lot of beauty about that, the magic, the genius that I get to see on the streets, and just finding out that the stereotypes that we are brought up, you know, like blaming the homeless, oh, they're the problem, you know, all these poor people are the problem. I really want to bring to light that, in fact, it's the exact opposite. And I've interviewed people, full-time jobs, still can't afford a place. And, you know, homelessness isn't about being, you know, drugged up and lazy. It's about a higher cost of living, lower wages, domestic violence, people getting sick that don't have anybody, PTSD, hello vets, no family support, no community support. I mean, that's what's really going on here. And it can happen to anyone. And there's actually no reason for this. There's new empty apartment buildings being built everywhere. Everywhere. We have more here in America, empty homes, than we have homeless people. And, you know, the thing about the charities, like, people think that, oh, well, you can just go get in a shelter and someone else is going to take care of it. And that's not how it works. I mean, the shelters I've come across or people I know, they operate like jails. You have to go to their churches or take part in their religious services. You're not allowed to have your own stuff. They say it's for theft, so then you have to give them your stuff, and then it ends up being stolen anyways. And, you know, just the red tape involved, and I just really want to share the stories. You know, I know a homeless vet on the streets. Listen to this. He gets $200 a month from his pension. He's a disabled vet. And because of, he said no or something to somebody or something, so then he was only eligible for 20% of his pension. So he decided to use his GI Bill and go to school. He's an incredible writer. He actually writes for a paper in Washington. And while he's going to school at Evergreen College, there's this coffee shop that's in the park and owned by the cops. Well, you're not allowed to be homeless. They actually have signs, you know, no backpacks allowed. So of course he had his backpack, bought a biscotti, bought a coffee. A cop, not even the business owners, told him that he has to leave. Okay, so he's like, well, can I get a to-go cup? So the cop was gonna get it for him. He went outside and they have all these posters of, you know, people advertising things. And one of them, there was a hanging black man in one of the posters. And he asked someone, he's like, what is this doing here? Can this come down? Well, nobody took it down. So by the time the cop goes out there and gives him his to-go cup and kicks him out, he tore the paper down. Well, guess what he's in trouble for now? A hate crime. Yeah, so he lives on the streets. The only thing he gets for as a disabled veteran is $200 a month. So, you know, think about that when you're walking by these people and, you know, oh, get a job or go, you know, do this, or the government or somebody's taking care of you, or you're just a lazy, druggy loser. Not only is he not a lazy, druggy loser, he's a brilliant mind. He doesn't do any drugs, won't even smoke pot, won't even touch a cigarette, no alcohol. And his eating habits and everything has had to change so drastically because he does live on the street. He can't even drink water anymore. He drinks 1 cup a day of liquid. Why? Because he has nowhere to go to the bathroom. So tell me that's not also affecting his or other homeless people's health. And these are issues that I know it's kind of hardcore. I actually showed my toilet in one of my videos because, you know, come on, we're human too. Beating us up when you don't even know our situation is not going to make you better, and you're definitely not helping the situation for anyone else.
Yeah, I think homeless people definitely, obviously, you know, they make for pretty easy targets from, you know, people who, the bullies in society. Obviously, you know, there's a lot of good people out there too, of course, yeah. that do work with the homeless and make special effort to help bring a bit of light and just to help improve their days in whatever small way they can. But I mean, we're really covering a lot of ground here, and there is a lot to be shared and to be addressed. But let's just take it back. Well, quickly. Look, I want to. You said hate crime, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. So if you could just briefly, in a nutshell, well, seriously, like, you know, what's that all about? Hate crime for the vet for doing what?
He took down an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper on a bulletin board, a picture of a hanging black man. So the literature itself was not a hate crime, but him pulling that paper down. But see, my point, that wouldn't happen if you weren't homeless. That's the thing. The downtrodden, the abused, the disabled, the disadvantaged economically, etc., they pile stuff on and just, you know, turn you into freaking demons. And so you're so outcast of society already. Now you have a criminal record and fines that you can't pay. Check this out. Another interview I did with a woman in Seattle. She was a domestic violence victim, got beat over the head with a crowbar, had some seizures. When she's feeling better, living in her tent, she went and got a job stocking a beer cooler. She ended up having a seizure on the job. So not only did she get fired, they actually sued her in a court of law, and the judge ordered on behalf of the employer suing her because she allegedly lied on her application when she checked the box that said, I do not have any physical impairments that would, you know, interfere with the job. So she has a $5,000 lawsuit against her, and of course can't work and is still living in a tent under the bridge and disabled. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, once again, I mean, that's just another example of how the homeless are make for easy targets, and a lot of times find themselves suffering, grave, terrible injustices. But rather than go down that road any further, because I think we're all pretty aware of that. Let's just back it up a little bit, because there's a couple things you brought up there, real kind of that caught my attention, and I think this really warrants some exploration and delving into. But you said stalkers and sex trafficking ring. Whoa, what's that all about?
Oh, goodness. Actually, those two words kind of go hand in hand. And, 10 years ago, I was pretty naive. I was still recovering from the programming that, all people in uniform are good and have your best interest. And, I was obviously starting to find out that governments and politicians and stuff lie, but not to the extent that I got to experience firsthand. So there was an issue, and these things are going on everywhere, but my personal experience has to do with the sex trafficking ring that was going on in Rancho Penasquitos in San Diego. That's McConaughey Canyon. And by the way, the property is owned by D.R. Horton and Pardee Homes. And they also have tomato farms there by the migrants that they house out in these canyons, living in cardboard boxes, no running water, and of course supported and backed by the ACLU and CRLA and Southern Poverty Law Center and this and that. But those tomatoes and stuff are sold at Whole Foods and all of these places. But you walk around and there's fecal matter everywhere, and I filmed the encampments, and they would bring the girls in 13 and under from Mexico to service the migrants and stay on Saturday at 4 p.m. like clockwork. It wasn't a big secret. Everybody knew. And so when I went in there and started filming what was really going on and interviewing the guys, and, they confirmed that it was still going on. And Ana Garcia from NBC in LA, who's now, of course, a racist, like myself, because she exposed that it was going on. It just, that's kind of how I found out what was happening. So we turned in all this evidence and such because supposedly the people involved in it were hooked up with like cops or FBI, and, they're going to solve this and save the little girls, right? We were told December 2nd, 2006, that there would be no more trafficking going on. So we decided to hide in the bushes up this big hill, and if you see the videos I sent you earlier, you'll see. I mean, I had to zoom in super, super far. And so then we see the girls, and then we see all the dudes go in, and we're like, holy crap. So they call the cops, and the cops didn't care. So I went down there, and then the rest of the videos is me collecting evidence and kind of befriending, or I would actually say playing dumb with the Johns that were still there trying to cover everything up. And, the bottom line is it was totally covered up. And the really sad fact of the matter is the women, a lot of them don't want help because they're afraid, whether it's due to threats of what will happen to their family, or whether it's due to being homeless and living like I do, or whatever the reason is. But that stunt, I guess there, I call December 2nd my D-Day, was pretty much, I got stalkers overnight. I became a racist, child abuser, delusional, CIA murdering, prostitute, building bomber who shoots helicopters out of the sky and like hacks federal computers and stuff like that. So these, there's not only like the media aspect involved, there's stalkers that like follow in person or online and want to slander or sabotage, and unfortunately 90% of that has come from the so-called truther community, alternative news, etc. But I got to learn up close and personal how that really works, and unfortunately the I guess you can call it a movement or whatever, is at least as infiltrated as mainstream. And I think that's actually more dangerous than the mainstream, because the mainstream, we know they're script readers, and they don't know. They don't actually know the truth because they are script readers. But the alternative people, the operatives, and people that want to slander and shut down homeless, disabled women and stupid things like that, they know what they're doing is wrong. So that's I guess how the stalker and sex trafficking ring relates.
So that's quite something. You've actually been attacked then.
Oh God.
By people supposedly who for all intents and purposes are regarded or like to present themselves and portray themselves as part of the truth movement, as it's often known, or the alternative media community and so forth. That's that's amazing.
People who even make millions of dollars a year off of their truther activities. So yeah.
Well, but hang on, because maybe here's the thing. But let's tie that back in, just hypothetically now, for a moment, to the whole thing of these sex trafficking rings. And I guess you're saying that the age, like these are minors that we're talking about. Is it 13 years old?
13 years old and under. Oh yeah, the ones over 13, I don't know, maybe they're too old or they get sent somewhere else. But 13 years and younger. And
this is a huge,
go look at the pictures. You can see them with your own eyes, the videos with your own eyes. It's this is real. But part of the stalker campaign, of course, was to delete me, delete my evidence, hack my computers, have my house raided, and have computers and things stolen and rootkits and all of that crazy stuff, shut me down online, and replace it with slander because, remember, I'm a crazy woman and I just made all this up because I hate Mexicans. I mean, so you have like one side saying I'm like a white racist, like AK Grand Dragon Wizard or something, and then you have the other side saying I'm working for La Raza and the Mexican government. Why? Because I wanted to save little girls that just happen to be Mexican? That makes no sense. But people fall for it.
Right.
They really do.
Right.
They're like, oh my God, she's a racist. Nothing she's ever done in life means anything. She never actually did any of those things. I mean, they even went so far as to say I was trafficking my own children. Uh-huh.
Oh.
But they accuse you of what they are.
That's just the thing. Wow, this is a huge story. I can't believe this hasn't got more traction.
I'm not the only one. There's a lot of victims like this.
Yeah.
They go away. They try to drive them to suicide. They've done everything from kill my pets and leave them dead on my frickin' doorstep for my children to come home and find, to filing false reports. Check this out. So here I am in a wheelchair, okay, single mom, trying to get out of that dangerous situation after I was shot at in San Diego, and actually shot with laser weapons by cops on video and live on the air at the same time. You know what the truth community does? Oh, well, I'm just a crazy racist woman. Nobody stuck up for me. The people who stuck up for me were publicly slandered as well, or dying, or are now homeless and can't find work. Yeah, that's what happens. None of the truthers, nobody stuck up for it. In fact, when they kidnapped my children, I was facing 56 years in prison. Who stuck up for me? Nobody. I had to do all that by myself. And eventually, they dropped the charges, but the whole 2 years, the truther community uses that to slander me.
Well, but it couldn't have been the entire community, surely, but maybe a certain select few.
Yeah, you Google it and you try to find one person speak up for me publicly. All you'll find is slander. Period.
And how long ago is this? How
that was
far
in
back
2010. Where the crazy stalkers came in.
So this whole thing of you, because the way I see things, I look at you as you're an investigative journalist. Really.
That's what I just wanted to document things and show both sides and find a way, even then, to bridge the gap with the border situation, you know?
Yeah.
I understand the political stuff. I understand the human stuff. And, you know, the truth is, like even people on the so-called other side, you know, whatever, when we came together and started talking and even doing shows together and presenting solutions, they were completely ostracized and slandered because they don't want solutions. They don't want people coming together. We have to hate somebody. So it's just interesting how, like in the alternative community, if a guy gets a death threat, everybody's all over it because he's some hero. But if it's a woman, she gets more. What's going on with that? Go see. Go see for yourself. Go see who's speaking out and telling the truth. They either get deleted or, like I said, just, you know, disappeared in some way. Prison.
Well, yeah. Has anyone that you know of, has anyone disappeared permanently?
Well, not in the last years, but during the sex trafficking ring situation when I was still in San Diego in 2007, there was one journalist that wanted to show the actual truth, and then I never heard from him. And then there was one cop that actually wanted to do something about it, and supposedly, last I heard, oh God, I'm starting to shake again, but so last I heard, his body ended up in the desert, and the other dude ended up supposedly in the marina. So, but I haven't heard anything like that since, just lots of brain infections and things like that going around.
So you think that your brain infection then was perhaps, and yours is not the only brain infection, but there's been other reports of this occurring
Russ Dove
as
is
well.
in hospice right now. Yeah, we're just waiting for him to die. He can't even form a coherent word. And he was the one that documented all this stuff that's happened in the last 10 years.
Wow. So, okay. Cause I didn't realize, I think I know the guy you're talking about. I recently came across him on Facebook. So, he's really, isn't he, he has a background in like magic, something like professional stage.
Yes. He builds, magic. Did build magic sets in Branson.
Here's the thing that gets me. One of the things definitely is that it can't just be an isolated incident or one particular location. This is I bet you I'm almost certain this is systemic. This is systemic. This is you know this, and you got to wonder like how does this go and what is being done. It seems like for the most part it's being any attempt to expose and hold these criminals accountable. It's like there's a lot of resistance there, and anyone that dares to breach or look into things too closely, they're met with a lot of resistance and a lot of pushback. So that's just amazing, just like the state of the world that we live in. Just how rotten things really are, and that there's not more being done. So. I've got this, as you see, I've got an Amnesty International banner that I've now just recently added here through the broadcast that we're doing. So one of the things that I've thought of is perhaps I'd like to reach out to contact them and just draw their attention to what it is that, just to take a look, perhaps the larger picture, what's going on here. And we're once again out along the border, that was just south of San Diego, that all this has been occurring.
Did we lose you, Christie?
Okay, and that's about 40 miles, 50 miles north of the border, you're saying? Yeah, well...
I'm not hearing Christie.
Okay. Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, I'm not here. I'm not getting to the audio feed.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just keep dropping, so I'm just going to... be quiet.
Go ahead. Yeah, you're good. I got a good solid stream there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just think like the hardest thing that I've had to realize during these experiences is that we're a society that is taught to blame the victim and blame and shame and beat up on them because I guess people feel better if they're not there. So, I mean, I see it every day. And then we have the New Age spirituality, and there's the whole blame the victim, and, oh, it's your fault, and don't hang out with somebody going through a hard time because they're going to infect you with their negativity. And, you know, people are committing suicide. And, you know, it's the people. It's up to the people to just kind. And you are in life, how many pieces of paper or homes or toys or whatever you have or where you live, we're all the same. We all need love. And we are the ones that have the power. Every moment of our life, we have the power to turn somebody's life around. And it could be as simple as a smile, an ear, a shoulder, allowing somebody to cry and be human and feel heard and feel cared for and feel safe. We can do that, and it doesn't cost a single dollar.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. That's a great point. And if only people would take more time, just a small, not even, it really isn't much time. It only takes a moment or two to do these small gestures. So I guess a lot of it comes down to just how we are, though. Basically, humans are pretty selfish in a lot of ways, and it's pretty awful that there aren't more people with open hearts and open minds, and people are able to cultivate generosity, even on the most this basic sort of level. So, and that's part of what our network is all about, really. That's why we've kind of structured things with this whole idea of the 50-50, the profit sharing scheme is the way we've got things structured, and we're quite serious about that. That we'd like to see that half of all revenue that's generated actually finds its way back to helping people at the grassroots, including the homeless. So I think it's a huge story, really, this exposure, and, you know, kind of because once again, I'm just blown away, man, that there's not more of this in the mainstream media. I'm flabbergasted. In fact, you know, my faith in the mainstream media has kind of hearing these sort of testimonies. It only contributes to my faith in the mainstream media. Like it's sinking to an all new low, really, as far as their credibility and legitimacy is concerned. It's like I can't believe that we live in the world, frankly. But let's talk solutions, if we could. How does that sound?
I love that.
Yes.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, because really that's what we're really supposed to be all about here. So, and Christie, I hope we'll consider coming back at some point. We can work out these technical issues a little better, and you can talk to us a little more about your knowledge and of herbs and natural medicines and so forth, because I mean that's one of those marketable skills that, you know, people out there in the listening audience might want to know more about, and to the point even where they could perhaps help this, you know, that they could help supplement your income in some way. So do you have a PayPal account?
I do, and how's my connection now? I have a place where I can plug in, and I have all the bars back, so okay, I would totally like to talk about that. So after I learned that Mother Nature was smarter than man, and, you know, discovered dandelion, the gateway drug, what happened then was when we moved to the Midwest, I had to try a whole bunch, because there's bugs, man, crazy, like flying helicopters and every parasite you can think of, so, and dogs and fleas and ticks, and so I actually decided to make an oil that was going to keep us free of ticks, mosquitoes, and fleas. And then what happened there was kind of unbelievable, but these recipes kept whispering in my mind, I guess, so to speak. I just followed my intuition, and I ended up making an oil that at first, you know, I'd make these creations, I'd send them out to people and have them try it for different things. So then we found out it worked for poison ivy and rashes, eczema, psoriasis, then it worked for pain, it worked for healing, it was an antibiotic, which I knew. I mean, all the oils I made, I wanted them to not just smell good. I put antibacterial, antibiotic, antiparasitic, anti-infectious properties in each of them. And this one ended up curing everything. And I didn't intend that when I made it. Like I said, I made it initially for bugs, and then I'm like, wow, I have a gift. And a few years later, that very same oil ended up healing Ricky of his gangrene. The VA was scheduled to chop off both of his legs, and I treated him with the oil that I made. And so it just kind of blossomed from there. So I was growing all my own food and like 200 different herbs and drying them out, making teas, medicines, creams, healing oils, etc. And then I got too busy. I made a video saying, oh, for, I think it was 2012 or 13, half price holistic health coaching. And I actually had to buy a calendar. So I got too busy. And then I decided, well, why don't I make videos? And it's free, and everybody can get all the information they need there. And I just say it once instead of hundreds of different times, because I was busy with my gardens, Project Live Your Neighbor, Soul Journeys Radio, I was busy. And so that's how the video and teaching thing came about. But unfortunately, most of those videos were completely erased when the stalkers filed fake copyright and trademark. And on the road when this happened, so the last video I made actually was stepping outside your comfort zone of the title, and they were direct live upload. They weren't edited, taken from a camera. I would just turn the camera on, I'd do the demonstrations and talk. And a lot of them included health experiences that people saw me heal my tendons, heal my nerve damage with the oils live on video. Well, apparently people don't want you to see that, and that was all erased, and they never even gave me access to my own work. But some of the instructional videos do still exist, and I definitely will share what I do know. But I think it's important to mention I did just have a brain infection, and my memory was pretty much erased. I didn't even know my neighbors when I got out of the hospital. Like, I knew nothing. And when I listen to shows that I did 2 years ago, 3 years, 5 years ago, I'm like relearning this information. And obviously a lot of it is intuitive, but the way I see it is until I'm 100% healthy again, I can't charge money or make products, trying to heal people. Number one, these are my wands. If I'm under the influence of something like the brain infection or vampiric parasitism or anything like that, then I'm putting that energy into the medicine I'm making. So in my right mind, until I am 100% confident that I have my health back, I can't make medicine or, continue with my mytrueessence.net coaching at this time. In the future, for sure, because look how much I've healed already. 6 months ago, there's no way I would have been able to complete a coherent sentence. So, let alone walk, or, you know what I mean? So I'll get there. I'm just not into doing that until I know I'm healthy again, 100%.
All right. This one quick last thing. I'm not sure, Aaron, if you want to, and it is good that you let people know that too, of course, Chris. Didn't know where you stood on that, but I really look forward to the day, as I'm sure do you, where you feel comfortable enough that you're able to once again make use of your the gifts and knowledge and everything that you have to offer. So that's really what it's all about, is that we're here if we do have these abilities to share them with others and hopefully in some way lift them up or ease their suffering, make their lives a little easier. So
definitely, and I still do that. It's just I'm not in my right mind going to charge money and go into the coaching and medicine making like I was until I'm 100% there. It's the energy imprint, and I'm definitely getting much healthier. And I kind of felt bad because when I made it through the brain infection, my clients were, they love me and they trust me and my products are the best. But that's part of the magic. And I was completely healthy. And I felt bad when they're like, oh my God, my husband has cancer. And, oh, I couldn't wait to talk to you to figure out what to do. And look, I'll just say it right here. When I went to Florida, I was the picture of health, and I thought I knew everything. I had cured pancreatic cancer, no problem. Gangrene, no problem. Diabetes, lupus, like all this shit. And, you know, I'm not going to say I had a big head, but I really thought I knew it all. And then I get bit by a bunch of mosquitoes and a brown recluse, and my brain swells up, and I was helpless. I could not do anything. And in fact, things that had worked for me and other people for the previous 7 years, 8 years, did not work at all. And in fact, in many cases, made things worse. So I had to rethink everything I thought I knew. And the beauty of that is I'm a lot less rigid with my diet. I'm like, well, heck, you know, if I'm going to die anyways and have to suffer all this pain, I'm going to eat some frickin' Doritos and ice cream. Bring it on. And guess what? I'm still here. So right? So I've learned firsthand that health is not just physical, which I already knew, and I talked about the emotional and spiritual aspects behind it as well, but there's also environmental aspects and other things involved. So when I get that all figured out, you know, again, when I feel 100% well, that I'm not under the influence of any more infections or anything like that, then I can go back to medicine making, that's what I love to do. If I could paint a perfect world and have all my dreams come true, I would just be traveling the world, healing people and teaching them how to heal themselves with my medicine. That's what I would be doing. And nothing makes me happier. Unfortunately, I have to eat too. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, your voice and your image are traveling right now. So in a virtual sense, you're everywhere right now, I guess, because of the use of this modern day kind of amazing technology we're able to tap. And you did mention magic. You mentioned magic a couple minutes ago, which really kind of piqued my interest, caught my ear. Basically, and that's one of what you've worked into here with the name of your division of the project you've done, the Homeless Radio Magic, and the room that we're presently in here on a pier, the free video conferencing platform that we're harnessing to help progress and develop our project, and hopefully we can over time here work together, because really that's what it's all about: community building and team building and cooperation. So what is magic? What is magic to you? What does it mean to you? And why is it that how did it find its way into the name here that you chose, the Homeless Radio Magic Network? How did that all come about?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I know it's hard using names, labels, words like that, because everybody has their own idea. So yeah, I appreciate you asking. To me, magic is everywhere. I think it's magic that a tornado goes through Tornado Alley and this, you know, gigantic trees ripped apart and this tiny little violet stands. I think magic is that we are spirit walking in this physical form, breathing gases made of the exact same elements of the earth, and the sun, you know, shines, so to speak, every day. We're floating in space, and you know, all of these things have to be exactly perfect to work the way things do. I think magic, to me, the highest form of alchemy and what makes me happiest is being able to take a little speck of dust, otherwise known as a seed, and nourish the soil, plant that in the ground, and come out with beautiful, medicinal, nourishing food to feed my loved ones. And there's also, you know, on the streets, like I mentioned before, yeah, I've experienced some pretty harsh, chaotic experiences, lessons, whatever you would, you know, want to call it. But there's always been some kind of miracle that happens at the last minute to keep me from completely sinking. And I just think that magic is everywhere. It's magic that when we're born, we go from breathing lymphatic fluid to breathing air in an instant, and we don't die.
That's
Kind of
amazing.
crazy.
That's amazing
So
stuff.
to me, I've experienced a lot of magic on the streets that have helped me when I was completely helpless. Look, I was left for dead in Florida. Not one single person that I had helped before was there for me. Not one. And I could not feed myself. It was random strangers, senior citizens that came in to check on me or make sure I was okay or forced me to go to the hospital. And that's what I've experienced, even that got me all the way out here. So that's magic to me.
Yeah,
right.
we're getting some good comments here. Christie, you're amazing, awesome. You know, we're winding down here. We got about 2 minutes. So I don't know. We're going to try and summon Captain Long John Sinclair, of course. But do you have any links or thoughts, any last minute things you want to get our audience or recorded here on the interview today, Christie?
Well, I want to thank you, fine gentlemen. I think you're awesome, and I am so glad that we finally got to do this. And yeah, I guess the new website is homelessradiomagic.com, and right there on the front page will take you to everything else we've talked about, and you know, Facebook page, groups, Instagram. By the way, I do take awesome photos. So if you're into that, but there's videos, everything you mentioned, from cooking tutorials, from me teaching at the free school to interesting things I get to see on the street, to radio shows and natural health and herbs and gardening. And so a lot of that work still exists, and you can get the links to all of that at homelessradiomagic.com. I'm going to be starting on americanfreedomradio.com, and again, all that information is at the website, January 11th. 3 to 5 Pacific time, if that means anything to anyone. And I feel really honored to be in this position on the streets, to where now I really know how to help people in this situation. And I'm so grateful that even though I'm in a position of dependency or destitution, that I'm still able to help other people. So, hey, more freaking magic. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, that you see the videos all the time. You know, it's usually the people that are less fortunate. They're the ones that'll help. The ones that have all the fortune and the money and the big cars, they're just like, oh no, they don't see it, I guess, you know.
I think, in fact, the captain has got something he'd like to contribute along those lines. We've contacted him up in his captain's quarters there, Aaron. So if you want to cue the outro music, I think we're about done. Just kind of wrapping things up here. We can make sure to get him to make his way down here and have a bit of to share some of his thoughts there with Christie.
Totally.
Excellent.
Hey, I'm game.
Hi, it's Aaron Gobrow. Welcome, Captain Long John Sinclair, to be coming down here soon.
Hang on. He's coming. Hang on. Get him down here. Come on. Get him down. Yeah, Christie, I made it here. Captain Long John Sinclair. Just up on the captain's quarters, working on our latest project. So, man, and thank you once again for coming on to the show. I've been up there streaming things, so I've been listening attentively. But we've got there's a lot of things we're working on here, and I think you in particular would make. We'd like to bring you on, and as a matter of fact, if you think it's a good idea, we're all hands on deck here, and we think you'd be quite instrumental, very helpful in this regard. We're working on building not just. Well, it's not just a homeless radio magic, and you're in Washington right now, but all the way across America is what we'd like to see. We'd like to build things up so we have a national homeless radio network that we can work on putting together to draw more awareness and people's attention to this cause. So
we're hoping to do whatever we can on that front. I know we got a bad reputation as pirates, but we're a new breed of pirate here, and we don't mind making a little money from time to time, but also we think it's important to give a little charity back to the people. So, you know, if you'd be willing, we'd be happy to bring you on board. We think you're a fair lass.
I love it. Thank you so much. You know, I also realized there was something else I wanted to mention, and I really think that we're totally on the same page. So it's not just a national thing, it's an international thing. And Project Love Your Neighbor, which I started in 2012, is the same concept that you guys are already doing. So I want to thank you all for doing that. And no, we're separated by miles, but this isn't just an American thing or just a Washington thing or just a Korea thing or an Arkansas thing. It's a human thing, and we all have the power within ourselves to make that difference that we pretend we want on Facebook, right? Like if people actually were the people they pretended to be, you know, it'd be a pretty peaceful place, wouldn't it? So I just suggest living it and being authentic and just keep doing what you're doing. And, you know, there are solutions. There's so many things that people can be doing that doesn't even cost a dime.
Quartermaster Aaron, you hear what this young lady has been telling us here and sharing her ideas and insight. I hope you're hearing her message loud and clear. I want the whole ship and the crew to hear this too. We'll take this to all four corners of the earth and let them know that we're here to help people in need, as well as pillage and plunder where we see fit. Maybe, in fact, in the quarters of those people who need to be shook down a little, these wealthy people that perhaps aren't, they're out of line. They're out of line. They're over the they make even us pirates look like Boy Scouts in a lot of ways. So, and let me just make this clear to anyone who's preying upon these poor innocent people and fair lassies like Christie here. We'll be watching you. We've got our eye out for you, and you better think twice before you try to cross her again, because we'll hold you accountable. Mark my words. I gotta go now, Christie, but thank you once again. We'll be in touch. You talk to the quartermaster here, and we'll hopefully do this again some other time. All right. Ahoy, boys.
Thank you, Captain.
Thanks again, Captain Sinclair.
Yay, what a treat.
Yes, it was a treat. It's always fun when the captain gets up or comes down from the captain's quarters. But yeah, thank you so much for the interview. We are running about 15 minutes late, so I'm going to play the exit music, and we'll end the broadcast, the live recording for tonight. Again, this is Aaron Gobrow. Thanks again for coming to PirateRadioPodcast.com. Our exclusive interview tonight with Christie and talking about the homeless radiomagic.com. It's amazing. We've had some good chat, but we're going to be closing the recording now. Thanks again, everybody.
Some good stuff.